Today, I'll be looking at one of Kenji's dashboards in Excel and remaking it in Tableau. We'll include the same features of Kenji's interactive sales dashboard that will update based on the filters on the left-hand side. So we can select to filter between years, regions, or products. There may be a few design tweaks going forward. For example, instead of having a circular background around each chart will have a square background. Who am I? My name is Valerie Madajemu. I'm a part of the Information Lab and DS30 cohort, and I'm a Tableau and Ultrix consultant. Why am I doing this? I've worked on a few migration projects going from Excel to Tableau, and I wanted to help anyone going through this process of migrating to a new platform. Now let's head to Tableau and get started. So I'm currently working off the Tableau public desktop version. One of the first things we have to do is connect to the Excel file. To gain access to the Excel file, you can head over to Kenji's video and actually get the Excel file from his video description, or you can simply go to My Tableau Public and download the workbook and open it up, and the workbook and the Excel file will already be loaded. Both links to his video and My Tableau Public are in the description below. So if you're starting from scratch where I am, the first thing we're going to do is connect to the Microsoft Excel file. So in the Connect tab, on the left-hand side, we're going to head to Microsoft Excel. I'm just going to locate Excel file, click open, wait for it to load, and now we have our data set. You might see your headers are not the correct heading, and actually they are on the first row. So what you can do is click on Use Data Interpreter on the left-hand side, and Tableau should automatically update the headers accordingly, like so. Then once that is done, we'll just head to sheet 1. So this is different from Excel because in Excel you might have had to build a pivot table, but the benefit of Tableau is we don't have to build that pivot table. We can just insert the data, and then depending on the level of detail we need for each worksheet, we can change that within the view here. People like to work in different ways. Sometimes people like to first build out the dashboard layout and then build their graphs to insert it in, and other people like to build the graphs first. For me, for this video, I'm going to start off by building all the graphs first. So if we take a look at the finished product, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 worksheets to create before we'll build our dashboard. So let's chart. Let's start with the line chart. This is the sales in USD. I'm going to head to the data pane and right-click invoice date and drag it to the columns. I would like this in a month continuous format. Click OK, and now we have the months aligning at the top here of the view. And then we want this split out by sales. I'm going to head to total sales and just simply drag this onto the rows. And now you can see we have our we have our line chart. I'm going to format the line chart, so I'm going to right click. Now I'm going to quickly format the line chart to get rid of these gray lines running across. Believe it's yes. So we're going to head to the rows, get the red lines and click none, and none of the lines are running across. And then I'm going to look at, I'm also going to take off the line for the ruler axes. So if I head to format the lines, and we've got the axis rulers for the columns, I click none, it should go away perhaps. Let's try rows. Sometimes I get these a bit confused. Yep. And then now we're left with just a line at the bottom for the date. In Kenji's dashboard, you can see that there are little dots for each month. So we can simply duplicate this in Tableau. I'm going to hit Control before I select total sales. So when I hit Control, left click on total sales and drag it across, and that creates 2 axes. But what I actually want to do is on dual axes, and I want to change this second axis to a dot. So now we have all these dots running across. What I want to make sure I do also is synchronize the axes so these dots just line up nicely as they should. I'm going to hide one of the headers because we don't need both of them. By dualing the axes, we have added more lines in. So I'm going to go in and format. I would not like a row divider, nor would I like a column divider. And we're back to where we started. One thing I do want to do before we move on is to make sure the color it's as similar as possible to Kenji's. So I know the hex code of the colors. So if you have the image, you can either pick a screen color and then pick pick the color from the image, or if you know the color code, which I do, I'm just going to copy and paste in this color code. So the blue is very similar to the dashboard we're recreating. I'm going to click OK, and now you see it's gone to this deeper blue. The next things we want to do is label this sales by USD, just like all the titles, just like in the line graph above. So because we're going to do this to multiple graphs, I actually want to format this for the whole workbook. So if I go to head to workbook, then head to worksheet titles, I can pick the size of each title. To run out to 15. I'm just going to make that 11. And I can also change the font. So I'm going to change it to Tableau semi-bold. And with every new workbook I create, this should be the format I should see. So with that formatting done, let's change the title to Sales in USD. Click OK, and that's now done. That's our line chart done. And I'm just going to rename this to line chart. So while we're here on the line chart, let's configure the filters in one sheet, which configures it in all the worksheets. So in Kenji's dashboard, if I bring up his image again, you can see it's filtered by years, region, and product. So firstly, let's add it for the years. I'm going to right click the invoice date and drag it to filters. And this time I'm going to select years, because you can filter it you can not only filter it by years, but you can do it by quarters, months, days, etc. Let's click on years and include all for now. And then while I'm there, we'll right click year again, and I'm going to apply this to all worksheets, all using this data source. This means with each new worksheet we create, the filter is going to be applied. So let's do this for region. I'm going to click all. Again, I'm just going to configure this to the all worksheets. And finally, the product, all values. And again, configure it to all using this data source. Great. So now let's move on to creating the map. I'm going to rename the map down here. For the map, I'm going to select latitude and longitude, go to show me, and I'm going to hit the map button on the top right. It's just because I have a habit of getting longitude and latitude mixed up all the time. And if I just go to the show me, Tableau just puts it in the right place for me. I am then going to put sales. I'm then going to put the total sales onto color. And right now it's not showing anything. It's going to see what's going on. Oops, don't want to filter the data. Actually, before I do that, I'm just going to bring state onto detail. Now it says there's 50 unknown states. So I'm going to click that as normal, and I'm going to hit the edit locations. And right now it's saying, all my states are unrecognizable. That's because if I look up here, the Tableau workbook is configured to the United Kingdom. I believe that's due to my settings. I might have configured everything to the United Kingdom, but we know that all the states are in the US. So I'm just going to we'll type in USA, press OK, and you can see now all the locations match up. Click OK, and now we have our sales showing per state. And if the sales are higher in a particular state, then the blue would be more darker according to the color legend. So Kenji's dashboard, as you can see, does not include Alaska, nor does it include, I think Hawaii is the one that's out here, which is why the view is a lot more bigger. So what we can do is actually bring state into the filter, and we can look for Alaska, which is at the top here, and we can also look for Hawaii. Uncheck those two values, click apply and OK. Now the view is much more similar to the view in Kenji's dashboard. And one thing I am going to do also is do some color formatting. I'm going to hit edit colors. I'm going to click on the color right here. You have the option of choosing your own colors. For now, I'm just going to click on and paste in. I'm just going to paste in the same color code I used before. Click OK, press apply. And now it's a bit more similar to the map we've seen before. I'm just going to turn up the opacity to make it more obvious. Next thing we want to do is rename this sales by region. And as you can see, that formatting has been kept from before, because we formatted the Tableau workbooks for the Tableau workbook titles for the whole workbook. This was called sales by region. I'm going to hit OK. And what we also need to do is format the lines for the map. You might not be able to see it very clearly now, but you can see that there are actually lines on the columns and on the rows. So I'm going to head to the column divider and click none. Same with the rows. Well, ultimately, you can also go to the sheet, which will probably save you a few clicks. I think that should have gotten rid of all the lines. Right, next we are going to create the donut chart. A donut chart is essentially a pie chart, but with a circle in the middle of it. That's how I think of it. Other people might phrase it a bit differently. So I'm just saying it's split out by the sales method, which is this category here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to change things to entire view. I'm going to change the marks cards to a pie chart. So this angle pops up. I'm going to put the total sales onto angle as well onto size, and then add the sales method onto color. And now we have our simple pie chart. However, we do want that circle in the middle. So I'm going to, in the columns, just put a min of 1 here, and I'm going to hit Control before I pick up the min and drag it across to make to make 2 circles, and I'll go to min 2, and I can take all these different things off, because essentially what we want is just this circle to go into this circle here. Next, let's dual the axes. So now they come together as one. Just need to make this circle a bit smaller and then change it to white, and now we have our donut chart. I'm going to hide, well, first synchronize the axes and then not show the headers because we don't need the headers. Perhaps I might make everything a little bigger, and then with the format, I am going to remove the unwanted dividers. I think I have to go to columns and hit none. I think all the lines are now gone. And now we can deal with the color formatting. So I'm just going to copy and paste each color code for each section. But first, actually, I'm going to go to all and turn off all the tooltips because we don't need the tooltips right now. Let's head to the color for the sales method pie chart. So we've got 3 colors here. I've got the hex codes waiting to go. So I'm just going to double click on install, just copy and paste from what I got from the color picker. Next, do the same for online. Then I'm going to do the same for outlet. And now we have our pie chart created. You do have the options. Perhaps you might want to add your marks labels, and you can configure those, and you can actually make those in millions if you would like, but for now I'm just going to leave them off. Right, our next focus point is the bar chart. Oops, didn't mean to do that. So I'm just going to rename the bar chart. This is one of the more simplistic charts that you will ever use, and probably the most popular. It's my most popular chart I use. So I'm going to put the retailer onto rows. I was meant to click that to entire view, and then total sales to columns. And I want to sort this by descending. And yeah, that's pretty much how you do a bar chart. Just going to format to get rid of the grid lines going down, and I'm going to get rid of the rows axes rulers. And because we'll have in our title sales by retailer, I'm going to remove total sales from the axes. Now I just need to change the blue to a very similar color used in Kenji's Excel dashboard. And there we have it. Finally, I'm just going to correct the spelling of this bar chart. And finally, I'm just going to create a worksheet in order to have this feature of the last time your data source was updated. Add a new worksheet. I'm in the row, just going to create a blank, and I'm going to put that blank onto text. So with that now configured, I'm going to go to the worksheet and I'm going to write in last updated, then head to insert and click on data update time. So if your data source is being scheduled, this will let us know when was the last time it was refreshed. I'm going to press apply and click OK. So this date and time is the date and time I initially input the data source, and it shouldn't change because this is going to be a static document. It's not configured to any refresh schedule, and I'm going to rename this to last updated and remove the tooltip from there. Now we can think about creating our dashboard. I'm automatically going to delete the phone layout because we won't use this, and I don't want minimum maximum. I just want a fixed size dashboard. So if you're not familiar with Tableau and creating dashboards, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a series of horizontal and vertical containers to build up the dashboard to get the format we want. So if I just bring up Kenji's dashboard here, and what I mean by using a series of horizontal and container dashboard is I can quickly illustrate this. The whole dashboard will be built on a vertical container. The vertical just means blue. And then within the vertical containers, I'm going to input 2 horizontal containers. The first horizontal container is to do with the title, and the second horizontal container is to do with the contents below that includes the filters and the graphs. With the second horizontal container, it's then going to be built up of 3 vertical containers where we're going to input the items. And then something to take note of, some of you might have noticed that, we have to put these 2 charts side by side. So within this vertical container, there'll actually be a horizontal container to put these into. And that's what we're going to build up next. I am going to change the actual size of the dashboard to 1250 by 800. And like I said before, I'm going to start with a vertical container. So I'm going to float this into the view, change the X and Y coordinates to 0, 0. So it just aligns with the canvas. Then I'm going to change the size to what we made the fixed size of the dashboard, 1250 by 800. And now I'm going to add a couple of blanks. So from floating, I'm going to move back to tiled. I'm going to add some blanks in just to configure up the dashboard. So first things first, let's start with the US flag, the divider, and the title. So what I would want first is the horizontal dashboard. And I'm going to fix this size to 100 and change the background of this container to what it is in Kenji's dashboard. So I'm going to hit on background, go into more colors and copy and paste in. Let's paste in the hex code. And there we have it. That's color changed. Then I'm going to fill this container with blanks just to configure it so it's set up, so I know it's set up correctly. Starting from left to right, I'm going to put in the US flag. So from the left-hand side in the object section, let's drag in an image. Press choose. Then once you're at the location where you've saved an image, you're going to press OK, press open. I'm going to fit this image and center and click apply. OK. And let's fix the width to 200 here, like so. Then I would like to add a blank because next we're going to make this divider line. I'm going to then add in a blank, edit width to 10. I'm going to remove the padding completely for this. Press 0 and then just going to put 15 for the top and bottom and change the background to white. And there we have our divider. Finally, for this top section, let's add the title. I'm just going to go to text, copy and paste in. So copy and paste in the title from before. Just going to highlight it because we do want this title to be white, so it shows with the blue background. Click OK. Get rid of the remaining blanks so that the title nicely fills the space. And I might actually add just a tiny little blank here just to give them some spacing between the divider and the title. Let's work on the bottom half of the dashboard. So first, I'm going to put in a horizontal container, another horizontal container, so we can divide that second horizontal container into 3 sections. Just going to input it like so. Just going to fix the size there. Then just to make sure I have it configured correctly, I'm going to add in all the blanks. I'm going to get rid of these blanks here that were helping me with the configure the vertical containers before. That last blank is 64. So I'm just going to add 64 onto this number, which is 700. And now we're filling the view. So, all right, so let's focus on the left-hand side. On the left-hand side, we have our last updated area and then the filters. Okay, so let's add a vertical container and make this 200 so it kind of aligns with the flag and the divider. Just going to add some blanks in there. And what we can do is we can add our worksheet into the view. Last updated. I'm just going to add it up here, perhaps add a little blank at the top, and then we have it. Perhaps let's color this. I'm just going to fix this height to 75 and let's color this vertical container. Put like a lighter blue. So I'm just going to make it the same. I'm going to make it the same color as the tab above. But I'm just going to reduce the opacity to 7 and I'm going to just right click this worksheet here, go to shading sheet and take out the shading for the worksheet. And then we have our left-hand column ready for the filters. So let's actually perhaps add text saying, to make this 11, saying filters and maybe bring it to the middle and just configure it a little. And I would want to put my filters below here. And because I want my filters to align quite nicely, I'm just going to add a vertical container below that, edit the height. It's going to make this, let's say 185, put in some blanks, 1 2, 3 and configure it ready to go. Drop down, distribute contents evenly. So when I'm ready for my filters, I'll just drop them in there and they'll be configured, ready to go. So now I can get rid of one blank because we now have one section ready, and let's focus on the other sections. Right, before I actually jump into the other sections, I'm just going to configure the layout background because I want this to be a gray. No, I don't want to configure the border. I want to just put the border as a nice gray so it's relatively easy to read. Having a grey background and a white chart helps with the contrasting to help them stand out. So the next section we're going to work on is the middle section, so sales in USD, sales by region, and sales method. Let's bring in another vertical container. Just going to briefly fix the width. Going to bring in a blank, and then I'm going to bring in a horizontal container to the bottom. I think we don't want it this big. Perhaps let's make it 320, so we have quite a nice divide between the top and the bottom. Then I'm just going to add some blanks into that horizontal container. If you feel like you're losing track, you can also change the background. So for example, you can make, when you add different elements in and you kind of want to build the dashboard first before you insert anything, you can just change different backgrounds depending on what you're working on so you don't forget. So right now, I have 3 sections ready to go. At the top here, we want to add our line chart. So I'm going to insert that here, remove that blank. Now we have our first chart in the dashboard. What I want to do first actually as well is you can see that the title, there's no like formatting, no color behind the title, and I want the color behind the title. What I'm going to do is, it's all highlighted. I'm going to go to the background and select white. And then also, I'm also going to add a border, just a gray border, to help with that contrast as well. And as a habit, as each graph comes in, I always have like a rough starting point for the padding. So I'm going to make everything 30 on the outside. I mean, sorry, for the inner padding, I'm going to make everything 30. For the outer padding, I'm just going to make everything 10. I will, when I come to finishing everything, I will then edit the padding to my liking at the end. So that is the first chart that's in. Normally when you bring in sometimes when you bring in each chart, sometimes the filters can come in as well. I'm just looking at the item hierarchy. I don't think any filters have come in for now, but what I can do is actually, if none come through automatically, I can drop down, hit on the filters and select the filters I would like. So I would like year of invoice date, and it's come in here. It's actually come into the vertical container I created, which is where I wanted it anyway. So I'm just going to click that as a drop down, and then I'm just going to do this the same for the region and also the product. Then I'm going to remove those blanks that I put in before, which were kind of placeholders. I'm going to change the rest of these filters to drop downs, because you can see we can now select between what we would like to see. Now that the filters are configured, I'm now going to add the sales by region chart and the sales method. So let's head back to the dashboard, and I'm going to bring in the map into the horizontal, and that's just to make sure I'm putting everything in the right place. I'm going to input this and get rid of one blank. I'm going to do the same as before and just change the background to white, add a border, and just have a default padding starting point to work with. There we have it. And you can see like the legend came through for the total sales. This is something I don't want for now, so I'm just going to not include it. And then I'm going to head to the donut chart and also bring this in. So again, you can see how it brought in extra features, and just going to quickly do the formatting. Background is white, I want that gray border and a default padding position to start with. Right, good. Distribute these evenly so they come up aligned. And then when I brought in the donut chart, which is actually labeled incorrectly, should be labeled sales method. When I brought in the sales method chart, the legends for the colors actually came in as well. So what I'm going to do is select floating, and I can bring this to this area and get rid of the title because we do not need that for now, just to let us know what segment of the donut chart corresponds to. So right now, this section, we do have the bar chart to bring in, and this section has taken up a lot of space, just because I wanted more space to work with when I was bringing in the charts. But I'm going to make this 700, make the width 700, and I'm just going to bring in the color legend to the right hand side. And now we've got our space finally ready for our bar chart. I'm just going to check the item hierarchy, see that everything's in place. So head back to the dashboard tab and let's include our final chart, which is the bar chart. Just going to remove that there. Again, same formatting, click on white. I want a grey border, outer padding to be 10 and inner padding to be 30. I actually feel that maybe perhaps my dashboard is a bit narrow. We can extend the width a little bit. So I'm going to head to dashboard and click 400. That's just giving us a bit more space to work with. Now we've reached a point where we are pretty much finished now. And now what's left to do is like the final formatting, just to see how I can improve this dashboard. Now that I'm in the place where I'm happy with all the formatting, I now head over to the filters and, for example, select just items from the Midwest. That will now come up, or I can combine it with the Northeast, or I can look at the Midwest and products in the Midwest and go to women's apparel. And now we can filter our interactive dashboard according to that. And of course, I'd have to give all the inspiration for this dashboard to Kenji. I thought it was really interesting to see it from an Excel point of view and translate it over to Tableau. So if you found this video useful, make sure to drop it a like, and any questions, feel free to comment below. And I plan on making more videos like this in the future. So to not miss out, make sure you subscribe. All right, I'll see you next time.